So the first thing you have to understand about short films is that they are not short feature films. They're completely different in terms of writing. So here we have a few tips of writing a short film, and this has been the first one. So trying to make a short film with the guidelines of a feature film is going to end up in disaster, because a short film is, as the word says, a short film. The whole concept, the whole structure of a short film is completely different to a feature film, where you have time to develop characters, to create setups and payoffs and so on. The thing about short films is you should focus on the ending. Most good short films have a punchline, an ending, much like a joke has an ending. You have a setup and then you have an ending. That's what you should do with a short film. So you should start with the ending. If you have a premise, I have an idea about X and Y, what is your ending? That is the first thing you should be thinking about, because the ending is do or die in short films. And that's actually a question you should ask on any story you develop, either for short or feature films, is what's my ending? Where is this all going to go? What's my B point from my A? So that's what you should focus on your short film, is how is it going to end? And what I like to do is I like to build from the ending I've decided on. I have a premise, I have this guy is whatever, he's traveled in time, or he has robbed a bank. What's my ending after that premise? What's my ending after that little idea that I had? And then I work backwards from the ending. I love to do that because it kind of makes the whole structure a lot more coherent and working. As opposed to feature films, and as I mentioned before, setup is not as important in a short film. All these things, all the backstory and context should be implied right away. You should not waste time explaining to people what's going on or doing exposition on what the circumstances are. These circumstances, this backstory should be completely implied and obvious right from the go. It's the old rule, show, don't tell, as you've probably heard. Show, don't tell. Don't waste time with exposition. Just show us what the circumstances are and what the backstory is. And you can do that in very effective ways, sometimes with just one shot, one line, one moment that will define all the backstory you need. It's also important to understand that given the circumstances of a short film, you really don't want to invest all that much on world building. What you're looking for is a hook. So focus on that premise that I spoke of before and focus on that ending. You know, the circumstances, the background on which something is taking place, either it's really important for your plot and for your short film, or you just skip over it because it's not important, because people are not going to be focused on what the background is or what the scenery is or what the circumstances are if the hook is good enough. Okay, I'll give you a very bad example of something I just came up with. A man is fishing and suddenly he fishes out a key that is made of gold and grants wishes. That's my ending. So he is fishing. So how do you establish that? You just have a shot of him fishing. The circumstances are implied. You show him with a fishing stick. Circumstances are implied. Maybe he fishes a fish first. Circumstances are implied. You don't need to exploit that any further. This is a very bad example, but you know what I mean. Don't waste time on setup. This is not a feature film. You're not doing a lot of character development. You're not doing any of that. All you're doing is working like a joke. Think of it like working like a joke. You have the punchline at the end and you have the setup at the beginning. Basically, that's what all good short films have in common. Another thing to bear in mind when writing short films is keep the character count to a minimum. I would suggest that you only have one character, two at max, which are the protagonists. Okay, so you have one character, and this is the journey of one character. This is the story of one character. If you try to make it a lot longer than that with more characters, it's not going to end up well, because you'll end up with a bloated short film, and nobody wants to watch a 30-minute short film. Trust me, nobody wants to do that. The perfect running time for a short film, in my opinion, is between 3 to 10 minutes tops, and 10 minutes is already stretching it for me. Because again, if you're doing something that needs that kind of development, you probably should be doing a feature film. To me, a short film is something that you consume and you find funny, and it works, it has deep messages, and it doesn't have to take 15, 20 minutes to do so. If it takes that long, it's probably not being very effective. So one character is my golden rule. Just keep it simple. This guy this happens to this guy, and at the end this guy does blah blah blah, whatever, and you have your punchline, you have your payoff at the end. So yeah, keep it to a minimum. Try to keep the number of characters as low as possible, and you're off to a good start. Much like you don't need to focus on the circumstances and you're showing people what they are, the backstory and all that should be implied. Short films should be more about the story rather than the location. This ties back to what I was talking about with giving too much context, giving too much character setup. It's more about story and what's going on in those 6 to 7 minutes that we're watching this film. What's going on? And all that backstory and all those circumstances should be weaved in that script in those 7 minutes, so we get the whole picture without having to add extra time to explain things and add a setup if you need it. All that should be working in those few pages that you have to shoot. All the circumstances should be implied, and you should focus mainly on your story, on your plot. Forget about locations, forget about what they say, unless, of course, the location is key to understanding or even manifesting that ending that you want so much. So my last tip is, as is the case with most filmmakers making short films and doing short films, we're probably all on a budget. So we're not making millions of dollars in short films. So everyone's who's working on a short film is probably on a budget. So if you're on a budget, remember to write with that budget in mind. Don't write too many locations. Don't write too many characters, as I said before. Don't write something that's going to be overly complicated to do. Try to focus again on the story. Focus on the characters. Don't focus on visual effects, and don't focus on something that will probably be a little too much for your short film. Good short films are cheap and effective, and they touch us right here in the heart. That's what you should look for. Don't try to make a spectacle. Don't think that my short film is going to be good because I have all these visual effects and fighting scenes and whatnot. It's not that it can't work that way, but a really, really effective short film will be about people, about emotions, about humanity, and that does not cost money. You just need one location, you need a camera, you need a sound crew, and that's basically it. So focus mainly on that. And those are my little quick tips on writing short films. I'm not a master by any stretch of the imagination. I've made tons of mistakes with my short films, but these are things I've learned also from making feature films as well. So short films are not feature films, and if you try to make a short film along the guidelines of a feature film, it's gonna go terribly. So if anything you take away from this video is this: remember, a short film is an art on itself. It has nothing to do with feature films. It is a completely different way of sending messages and expressing yourself. So focus on the story, keep it short, keep it simple, keep all the circumstances and backstories implied, and you'll make a hell of a short film, I'm sure. And remember, if you're interested in learning how to direct dialogue scenes or edit dialogue scenes, if you're starting out and you're interested in that kind of stuff, check out my videos on this channel where I talk about directing scenes and editing scenes. And if it's helpful, stick around and maybe subscribe and like and all that stuff. And thank you very much if you stuck this long in this video. I appreciate your patience, and I will see you next time.